Hi there, and welcome to the Boostly and Chimp Answers email marketing guide to getting more business through email marketing for your hospitality business. Might need to work on a better title than that, but it works. So, thanks for watching. Now, this is the first video in the series that we're going to be producing, and this video is going to focus on some of the key fundamentals that you need to think about when it comes to email marketing. We're not going to go deep into Mailchimp here. It's more about you understanding how email marketing works and where Mailchimp fits into the grand scheme of things, of all the emails that you're potentially going to send clients, just so that you can understand and see how it all fits together. And then once this video is finished, we're then going to go in and do a quick demo in Mailchimp of how Mailchimp actually works. So if you've never used Mailchimp before, never used email marketing before, it's basically like a whistle-stop tour around the key things that you need to know when it comes to Mailchimp. So, hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next video once this one's done. Okay, so let's go through some of the kind of like principles of email marketing and things that you need to be aware of when it comes to basically going into email marketing with the right mindset. Okay, so one of the things I want to point out straight away is that when people fail at email marketing, it's not probably because of the reasons that you think. It's not actually got anything to do with about the lack of knowledge they've got of a specific tool, such as in our case Mailchimp. And it's not really the fact that they actually lack technical ability. Certainly a lot of the tools nowadays are very, very intuitive, and it's very easy for people to get to grips with them. So that's not why people fail with Mailchimp. The reason they actually fail is because they actually don't have a clear plan of what they're trying to do, and they don't understand some of the fundamentals that you need to think about when it comes to email marketing. And that's what we're going to talk about. You need to have a plan. As is always the case, if you don't know where you're going, don't know what you're trying to do, you're not going to succeed. You're going to fail. And that's what this is, the same kind of like same instance when it comes to Mailchimp. If you've got a clear objective of what you're trying to do with your email marketing, then suddenly the whole thing falls into place, and it's a lot easier for you to actually succeed. Okay? And therefore, this comes down to one thing with email marketing. Very simply, what emails do you want to send? Now, I know that sounds like a really simple thing to say, but it actually is really fundamental to email marketing. And so many people jump onto a tool like Mailchimp, start playing around with it without having a clear understanding of the emails they want to send. So the first thing that you should do is always make a list and have a good understanding of the emails that you want to send. All right? And these are basically, that's the first of 4 fundamental steps that I see, and I use these every single day with every client I work with, the 4 steps that are going to make your email marketing work. So, first of all, know the emails that you want to send. Fundamental, because that's what you're using Mailchimp for. Then, you need to understand the information that you're going to need to be able to send them. It sounds complicated possibly, but what we're talking about here is if you want to send an email to all your friends, you need to know 2 things. You need to know the email address, and you need to know that these people are your friends. Okay, that way if you're sending an email to everybody, you can make sure that it doesn't go to all the other people, it just goes to your friends. So there's 2 pieces of information in this instance that you need, and I'll give you a couple more examples to illustrate this. Once you know the information you need, you then need to understand how the tool, like Mailchimp, works so you can store that information in the right place. Because when it comes down to it, sending emails to specific groups of people under specific circumstances, it could be a welcome email for the first time someone's actually booked at your property. It could be a thank you email. Ultimately, you need to have the information in your system, whether it's the dates that they've booked, whether it's obviously their email address, because let's face it, you can't send an email without an email address, but you need to have that information stored in the system so that you can send the right information to the right person. Okay, and then finally, you need to actually have a process of getting that information and putting it into Mailchimp in the right place. Now, usually this is the bit where people trip up, especially when they're trying to automate it by using forms on websites and stuff. Doesn't mean to say that you can't do that, but that's something that, if you're not careful, you can basically fall apart on, and basically the whole system revolves around that information. So certainly what you may start off with is just actually overcoming that by manually adding the information direct to Mailchimp yourself. That certainly works, but then you have the information, you'll have it in the right place, and you'll basically be able to send the emails you want to send because you've got that information. And it all revolves around that. And these 4 steps, like I said, are core to any email marketing system, whether it's a hospitality business, whether it's a venue, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, doesn't matter. These are fundamental to everyone. They apply to everything. All right, so let's give an example. Now, let's say, for example, that you wanted to speak to people who gave you permission to speak to them via email at an event. All right, so we're talking here maybe a kind of like a local exhibition or something along those lines where you're meeting prospective customers and they're going, yeah, I'm interested. You can send me some information through email. All right, so if you look at that, well, first of all, you need to be able to want to send them an email, and the email you want to send is, thanks very much for your interest, welcome them to your business. So that's the specific email you want to send to them. Okay, well, what information do you need to know? Well, you need to know their email address, and you need to know that that was where you particularly met them. A good example of this is, say, for example, that you were offering up your venue as a location to have people stay for at a local wedding. Okay, so you want to know that they signed up at this wedding event that you were exhibiting at. All right. Then you need to put that information into Mailchimp. You need to put their email address into Mailchimp, but you need a way of identifying or categorizing or essentially tagging those people that this is the event that you met them at. And then how do you get the information into the system? Well, you can use a standard manual form, or you can just keep track of it, and then when you get back to the office, you can start typing the information manually. Or if you're a bit clever, there are tablet forms that you can use, so you can put them onto an iPad and capture information directly. But ultimately, those are the 4 steps. You get the information, you put it into Mailchimp, therefore Mailchimp's got the right stuff, and you can send the email that you want to send. Let's give another example, okay, because this is quite fundamental. I just want to make sure that you understand this, all right? So let's say someone arrives on your website and actually is interested in booking, but they're not quite ready to put the money up, okay? So what they do want to do is get onto your mailing list, potentially get some special offers. Maybe you've got an introductory guide that you can send to people about the area that your venue is in, so that they can get to know the local area, and obviously that's going to be another incentive for them to potentially come and stay with you, because certainly if they're a tourist, that gives them some great information that they can go and visit, and another reason why you kind of like you're caring about them by giving them this information. So they want to fill a form out on your website, and you want to be able to send them a little PDF or a little guide that will make their potential attendance more likely, shall we say. So it's a fairly common standard thing. All right, so what information do we need? Well, obviously you want to send the email, and the email is a delivery email that's going to send this PDF to them. Okay, this guide that they've got, this document. All right, so what information do you need? Well, you need to know their email address. Again, that's almost a given in all of these. But you also need to know that the form that they filled in, the way they got your information, or the way you got their information, was specific about this guide. If you use the previous example, you don't want to necessarily send this guide to the people that you met at the event, because you didn't talk about the guide at the event. Whereas if they filled this form out on your website, then you can send this information to them. All right? How do we store it? Well, again, you want to store the email address in Mailchimp, and you also need some form of tag or way of identifying those people who complete the form, which therefore means that you've got to get the information into Mailchimp. So a form that automatically tags email addresses when it pushes the data into Mailchimp, that would be the type of thing. Now, don't get bogged down in the technicalities at the moment of how tags and forms and other bits and pieces work. That's a separate video. In this one, I just want you to understand that these are the 4 fundamental steps. All right, you want to send an email to someone, because that's what you're using Mailchimp for. What information do you need? Where are you going to put it in your tool, in Mailchimp, and how are you going to get it there? All right, and once you've answered those 4 questions, you can send that email. You're technically able to do that, but you've got to ask those 4 questions. All right, and this is the same for every email that you send. It could be a welcome email that you send to anyone who books. Like I said, it could be after they've attended, after they've visited you and stayed with you. It could be someone who visited a year ago and you want to send them an email. Ask yourself, what email do you want to send? But just as importantly, what information do I need to be able to send that email? And that all basically fits everything together. So just remember the emails that you want to send, the data that you need to send those emails, how you're going to store it, specifically in the tool that you're using, in our case Mailchimp, and how you're going to capture that information and push the information into Mailchimp in the appropriate way. If you remember this, your email marketing is going to work much more effectively than playing around with it and not really having a clear understanding of what you're trying to do. So, some of you may be asking, why are we using Mailchimp? And I just want to do a quick, basically, guide to Mailchimp if you've never used Mailchimp before, just to give you some context for why we're using Mailchimp and why we're not using other tools to do this. All right. Well, email is a fantastic tool, and there are lots of tools out there that will allow you to do email marketing. Now, when we're talking about email marketing here, you need to be very clear what you mean by, or what email marketing actually means. All right. So we're not talking here about the standard emails that you send from Outlook or from MacMail or from Gmail or whatever that you're sending to people on a direct one-to-one basis. That's not email marketing. That's direct communication. And we're not necessarily talking about what I'd say the transactional emails that you send. So, for example, when someone requests an invoice or a receipt, those type of emails that are sent from your booking system, those are completely different. You know, kind of like if you're using any of the OTAs, it's very similar to kind of like when you buy something on Amazon. So whenever I buy something on Amazon, I get an email confirming that my booking has been my order has been taken. I get another email which has got the invoice on, and I may even get an email saying we've basically got your stuff out for delivery. And it's exactly the same. Those are called transactional emails because they're tied to a specific transaction, right? Email marketing is not necessarily tied to a specific transaction. The clue's in the name. It's marketing. So we're talking here about building a relationship. We're talking about conveying marketing information. It's not tied to something. It's a specific, much broader view. And that's where you need a tool like Mailchimp to be able to do that, to be able to handle that communication. Now, the fact is that there are an awful lot of tools out there. I'm not going to say that Mailchimp is the best. It's as good as any, to be quite frank. But the fact is, it's the biggest and it's the most robust that's out there. 33% of small businesses worldwide use Mailchimp. So don't be sitting there thinking, is Mailchimp right for me? Because it's being used by over 10 million people. It's been around since 2001, which, to be quite frank, is an age in the internet world. And pretty much everything that you want to do on the system is actually available for free. So in most instances, you won't even actually have to pay for it. Now, if you want to go for the paid thing, we'll cover it as it were. So we'll just come to that. But if you're under 2,000 people on your database, you get some automations, you get all your campaign management totally free. But if you do decide to pay, and it's not prohibitive in terms of a cost, we're talking 20, 30 pounds potentially for the size of databases that you're going to be working with. You do get access to their support team online via chat, which is really, really handy. You can remove Mailchimp branding. Not really bothered that, to be honest. Having a little Mailchimp logo at the bottom isn't a good or a bad thing. Okay, but you can have a larger list of over 2,000, and you do get access to some more tools. So we're talking, as opposed to single step automations, we're talking multi-step. So emails that daisy chain after each other. You can set those up on a paid account, and you can also schedule campaigns for the future. So what that means is if you say want to do a New Year's party campaign, you can set that up in September. You can write the emails in September, and you can schedule it so that it goes out, I don't know, in October or November or whenever you actually want, to try and get people to actually, kind of like take advantage and book up for that. So that's one of the benefits of purchasing Mailchimp and actually paying for it. But the fact is, you get a huge amount for free, and it is set up to help businesses like you do email marketing. It's technically called an EMS, which is an email marketing system. And that's what it does. It's got lots of things, like it's got landing pages in there and Facebook ads, and it's trying to expand. It's not 100% brilliant at handling those other things. So it's not a customer relationship management system yet or a CRM. It's not perfect. But the fact of the matter is that it's great at sending emails. That's what it's doing for you. And it will basically handle pretty much all of your email marketing needs, certainly in the next few years, and even to be frank, further than that. I've worked with businesses who've been using Mailchimp for like 10, 15 years. They've got over 100,000 people on their database, and they're a relatively large business. They're still using Mailchimp. So don't think Mailchimp can't do what you need. But the key thing you got to remember is that MailChimp's only as good as you, the user. So you need to make sure that you understand it, because it's pretty much most of the time never wrong. If something goes wrong, it's usually because you've done something wrong, not because MailChimp does it. So you need to bear that in mind. Right, so how does it work? Well, guess what? It follows the process that we've just talked about. What type of campaign do you want? Do you want to send an email, a landing page, or Facebook ads, for example? It'll then ask what type of email do you want to send. Is this a broadcast, so one that you want to send today or at some point in the future? Or is this an automation? Is it something that's triggered by someone joining your audience or someone signing up for your website for more information on, for a particular form? Then it'll ask who the email is going to. Is it going to everybody, or is it just going to go to a specific group of people? And then you go design the email, and then you send the email. It all fits together. Okay? So those are the key things that you need to know. MailChimp also makes it very easy to manage your audience. Okay? So it basically gives you forms and landing pages so you can capture people's information. We'll cover that in a future video. It gives you the ability to update that information that you've got on people, which means that as they book new visits, as they go through the process again, and become loyal customers, as it were, as long as you've got the information in the system, you can update that information to make sure it's the most relevant. And the great thing as well is MailChimp handles all things like unsubscribes automatically. It unsubscribes people from the system straight away, so that if they click on an email and they don't receive any more from you, then you don't have to do anything. MailChimp takes care of it. Really clever from that point of view. And obviously it allows you to segment people into different categories depending on where they are. And everything is stored in your audience within MailChimp. It also makes it easy to design emails. Now, I know that's something that Mark is quite keen on when it comes to the emails, the templates that he's given, and I agree completely. The more time you spend worrying about what your email is going to look like, the less time that you're actually spending on what's in the email. And what's in the email is what actually matters. All right? So, yes, MailChimp makes it very easy to design email. It uses what's called a WYSIWYG, which stands for what you see is what you get. Allows you to create that kind of like a WYSIWYG system, so you can basically type something in and you'll see what the email looks like, which makes it really, really good. It gives you loads of templates to play around with it, but to be quite frank, even you want to upload new ones or repeat ones you've done before, don't worry too much about what the email looks like. I always say that if you spend half as much time on the design of it compared to the content you're putting in, your email is going to be successful. Because let's face it, a great looking email that's got no content, people are going to get bored of that pretty quickly. An email that looks fine, but has got lots of really good content, well, that's a completely different matter. People are going to read that. So you need to make sure that you're focusing on what you're putting into the emails. And MailChimp also gives you lots of information on the reporting side. It allows you to understand what really is happening in your email. So who's opened it, who's clicked on a link, where they clicked on the email, what they viewed the email on. Did they view it on a mobile phone or a tablet or a computer? And this allows you to improve your understanding and make better emails, which obviously is what it's all about. The fact of the matter is that MailChimp does what it does very well. Okay? For 99% of small businesses like yours, MailChimp does the job. And to be quite frank, once you've committed to a system, this is the system I'm going to use, you will make it work for you. I've seen too many people spend too much time and effort considering other systems and then kind of like bouncing around and always thinking the grass is greener. Trust me, I've been in this game for a while. The grass is not greener. The grass actually is exactly the same as it is on this side of the fence as it is on the other. So there's no real benefit from moving, and the only kind of like thing that's going to cause is a load of hassle and stress as you move from one system to another. So pick one system. Focus on something like MailChimp. If you're watching this, then obviously you've hopefully done that, and just commit yourself to MailChimp. It's not perfect, but it does what you want. All EMS tools out there have similar functionality, so stop worrying about if you picked the right one, because chances are you did, and focus on making the one that you've picked, MailChimp, work for your business. Okay, so now you understand some information about the principles of email marketing, the key things you need to be aware of, and also a little bit about MailChimp. Let's actually dive into MailChimp, and I'm going to give you a quick guided tour of basically how MailChimp looks on a computer. All right, so I'm going to use a complete virgin account. I created this account this morning to play around with. So it basically will allow you to, hopefully if you're using MailChimp for the first time, it will look something like this. All right, now MailChimp changes its format occasionally. It actually changed it a couple of months ago and actually moved these tools that you see on the left hand side. They were all at the top. All right, but basically MailChimp doesn't ever change that much. So even though it may look slightly different to what you're familiar with, it may be in a year or two's time if you're watching this video, it's changed slightly. It's not going to have changed that much and the principles are still the same. So if you understand the principles, that's what matters. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do a quick guided tour of all of the aspects of things that you can do with MailChimp and just focus on some of the key things that you need to be aware of when it comes to your audience and basically creating emails and campaigns and stuff like that. So this is kind of like your beginner's guide, whistle-stop tour around MailChimp. Right, so on your main homepage, you'll basically see everything that you've got on this screen. You'll have this menu down the left-hand side, and then the bottom, you'll basically have your account settings. So if you click the little logo in the bottom left, which just happens to be with me because I've got my image uploaded, it may not have yours if you haven't done, but basically if you load it up and you click on account, account is where all of your account settings are. So this is where you can change the name of the account. You can, so if you go to settings, you go to details, you can change the actual name of the account, you can change the default. So at the moment I've got the American time frame of month, day, year, so I'm just going to change that to day, month, year. I can basically change the time zone so that it's actually, let's go to GMT minus, GMT for London. There it is, there we go. So I've got that and I can change the currency format if I wanted to get rid of the comma and however the format there. So literally this is where you can pretty much set up your account to make sure that it works, and I recommend you do that. Also in here you can play around with the number of users you've got. Now you can only have one user if you're on a free account, but you can have more than one if you're on paid. It allows you to adjust the contact information if you put it in correctly right at the start. Also allows you to pause and delete your account. And also it basically allows you to set up the domains that you're going to use. So if I just click on domains, basically this will basically say the emails that you're going to send, or MailChimp's going to send on your behalf, they obviously need to come from a domain that you own. So when MailChimp asks you to verify an email domain, the first one that you set up will automatically be verified, but if you want to verify another email domain that you're going to use, you can use this tool. So if you click verify email domain, it'll ask you to put the email in, it will send you an email, and because you own that email, you'll be able to click on a link in that and verify that it's correct. One note, if you are serious about email marketing and want to succeed, then really I would suggest that you look at authenticating your domain. Now this may be something that's a little bit technical for you to do if you're not used to playing around with things like domain settings and other bits and pieces like that. So it might be that you need to get an IT person to actually do it for you. But basically what you'll need to do is you need to add some code into the back office of your hosting account. And what this does, it basically means that the emails that MailChimp sends have got basically a little bit more authority, which means they're more likely to go into the inbox. And since we all want to get our emails into the inbox, I would certainly recommend that this is something to you look at. But if you click on this authenticate button and you start reading this text and you're glazing over because you're not an IT geek or whatever, then I would suggest that you basically copy this page, copy this information and send it to the person who sorted out your email, sorted out your website, sorted out your domain, and see if they can help you actually get this set up. Because by doing this, you've got a better chance of getting your emails into the inbox. Okay, you can obviously play around with billings in this, and we're not going to talk about extras integrations. I really just want to focus on the key things that you need to know. Some of these things you might need to know further down the track, but certainly what we're going to be talking about now, there's no need to go into it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is going to click on the big Freddy on the top left, just for reference if you didn't know, that is Freddy, MailChimp Freddy, as it were. And now we're going to go and look at the various bits and pieces. And I'm going to go basically from bottom to top, because I'm going to cover off things that basically MailChimp gives you, but we're not going to talk about today. So first of all, we've got the search function, which allows you to search databases for campaigns or for individuals. There are better ways of doing that within the audience function. Integrations, we're not going to talk about that, but that's basically where you can connect up other tools to MailChimp. Content Studio is where all your images are stored. So obviously when you're going to be sending campaigns, potentially your images are going to be stored in there. Website is where Mailchimp allows you to build a very basic website. Now, I'm not going to say to you that you should do this. The chances are you've probably got your own website, which you may have built on WordPress or elsewhere. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's the right thing to do. Mailchimp's websites are very, very basic, shall we say. They're not really built to and designed for use by proper businesses. They're more offering people who haven't got a website at the moment a step on the ladder. So they're quite basic and fundamental, and probably something you don't need to worry about. So we're not going to cover those today. Now, automations is something, again, we won't cover in this video, but we'll come to at some point in the future. And there's something that will definitely help your business and something that will work. But again, talk about this. Then we've got campaigns. This is basically your archive of all of the campaigns that you've sent. So whether it's an email campaign, whether it's a social media campaign, whether it's a landing page you've created, all of them are stored there. And then finally, you've got audience. This is where all your data is stored. And then finally, you've got the create button, which is where you go in and create your campaigns. All right. So just to give you the two things that we're going to focus on in this video are on audience and then to basically create a campaign. So if you click on audience, if you've got a Mailchimp free account, you're only allowed one audience. All right. If you have got a paid account, you can have more than one audience, but I would really recommend that you stick to one audience. Now's not the time and the place for me to go through all the reasons why you should have one audience, but if you've got more than one audience, then you're probably creating yourself a little bit more stress, a little bit of hassle, and certainly making it a lot harder to manage your data. So really, one audience is what you should be looking to have. In terms of the audience itself, if you look at this sheet, if you just click on the number, what that will do will open up what I call the spreadsheet view. This is where your basically data is actually stored. All right, so just wait for it to load in. So you can see when I created my account, it automatically added one email address that I registered with. And as you add other people, they will appear in this particular space as a spreadsheet. Okay. Little things that you want to play around with. I'm not going to again spend too much time here because the whole purpose of this video is to essentially get rid of all the stuff that you don't need to worry about today. You might need it certainly down the track, but for today, we're going to concentrate on just the core things that you need to play around with. All right. And the key things you need to know when it comes to your audience are basically the structure of the audience. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on settings and we're going to down to audience fields and merge tags. And this basically is how the audience is set up in Mailchimp. All right, so these are all the fields that you're going to use to store information about a person. Now, Mailchimp gives you a load of default stuff, and you can add new fields. So you can click add a field, and you can add text or numbers or radio buttons, drop-down menus, birthday, all these various bits and pieces. So you can decide what information you actually want to store in the database. Okay, you can also delete information. All right, so one of the things that I try and make sure that I do as a principle with regards to the data that I have on people is that I don't store too much data. Think of kind of like your database system like a car. All right, and every extra piece of data that you're adding is another piece of luggage that you're putting into the car. If you've got too many pieces of luggage, that car is really going to struggle, considering it's also got to have other people in there or whatever. So you don't want to be adding information into Mailchimp that you're not using for email marketing. All right. So from my book, I'm never going to use a phone number in email marketing. Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to use Mailchimp as like a database to keep all of the pieces of information you've got about your customers, I'm not saying don't do that. But I would suggest that if you're using another system to do that, a customer relationship management system, your booking system or whatever, that information is going to be stored there. You don't need to have that information within Mailchimp. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to delete a couple of pieces of information that I don't want to store. I don't want to store their phone number, so I'm just going to delete the button there, click delete, type in the word delete and get rid of it. I'm going to do the same for physical address. I don't need to have their physical address in my email marketing database. Again, like I said, if you're using Mailchimp as your customer system as well as being your email database, you might want to. But for my purpose, I'm just going to delete that. I don't need that in there. Click delete, and it's then gone. Okay, so that basically means that now the only pieces of information I've got are email, first name, last name, and birthday. Now, if you want to add additional information in, then you can certainly add it in. But the key thing you need to remember about fields is that the fields are like the vertical columns in a spreadsheet. And fields are used to have information about a specific individual. So maybe they're all the information, first name, last name, birthday, maybe the city that they've come from, or even the country that they've come from. Are they local or are they overseas? It's information that's specific about them. All right. This is not information that you use to categorize them, as it were. That's held differently, and I'll come to that basically straight away. So I'm just going to save the changes here. So what we've got now is if we go back to the spreadsheet screen, so just click on the number again, you'll see the spreadsheet screen appear. Come on MailChimp. And there we go. And you'll see now that I've got rid of the other information. Okay. Now the other information that you potentially want to think about is categorizing information. So tagging information. I talked about kind of like the way of categorizing people who filled in a certain page on your website, or people that you met at a specific event. Now MailChimp's got two ways of doing this. Okay. Now the way that I prefer is to use tags. All right. And you'll see tags over here on the left hand side. But MailChimp also has something called groups. All right. Now again, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the difference between tags and groups, because to be quite frank, they're very similar. But there's kind of like there's a couple of reasons why you won't want to use tags or groups. But for the purposes of today, we're not going to talk about groups. We're just going to focus on tags, because tags allow you to tag people, and you can have unlimited tags for these people. So you can tag people, all the people who have filled out a specific form on your website, all the people that you met at a specific event, all of the people who came to your Christmas event, came like had a Christmas booking, as it were. So you can basically group these people together and use tags to be able to identify them. And that's the difference between tags and fields. Tags are to categorize people and group them together with others, whereas a field is specific about them. All right? So that's basically how you would structure your MailChimp account, using tags and using fields. Because remember, what is email marketing about? The emails that you want to send, the data that you need to send those emails, how are you going to store that information in MailChimp? So what we're talking about here is the storing of the information. And obviously the final step of all of that was to actually get the information into MailChimp in the first place. Now, there are a number of different ways that you can do this. In a subsequent video, I'm going to focus on things like forms that you can actually use. All right. But here, I'm going to talk about the two more basic ways that you can add information to MailChimp. And those are to add individual subscribers and to import contacts. All right. So if you want to add individual subscribers to your database, all you got to do is click Add Contacts, click Add a Subscriber, wait for MailChimp to catch up, and then just put the information directly in. So I'm going to put in data test 1 at chimpanswers.com. First name Peter, second name Smith. Put their birthday in. Their month is 06 and the date is the 27th. And it allows me to actually tag these people. Now, one of the principles I've got is that whenever I add someone to the database, I always like to apply a tag so that I know that I added them directly. All right, so I'm going to click here. I'm going to basically just type in direct addition. So that way I know that this is the way that I've added this information to the system. So basically we're going to be tagged as direct addition. You only want to add people who've given you permission to email them, or customers. Those are the only people from a GDPR point of view that you can add to your database. So yes, this person has given a permission, and I always tick the update button, because that basically means if this person's already on the system, it's just going to update their record. So again, just click the update. Trust me, it's the simplest and easiest thing to do. Click subscribe. They've now been added to your system, and it gives you an option to add another person, as it were. But if I go back to the spreadsheet view, wait for it to load up, the spreadsheet view will show that this person has been added. It's got their information, their birthday, and it's got the tag of direct addition. Just something that you also know, MailChimp also gives you an indication of whether someone's actually are subscribed to your database. If they're unsubscribed, it will show here as unsubscribed. it will show the source information. So what was the first way that they got onto your system? So in here it says they're on admin ad. Contact rating is how engaged people are with your emails. And obviously we've just created this account. So basically people are starting at the flat 2 level. But as they start opening and engaging with your emails, they'll go up to 3, 4 and 5 stars. Those are the people who love your emails. If they've got 2 stars, they're basically not someone who is reading your emails at all. And then finally, you've got date added and last change, which is a great way of just sorting your database to try and find people who have basically most recently added to your database or have most recently been updated. All right, so that gives you the option of understanding what actually, gives you the understanding of what's in your database and how you can add people individually. Now, what you may also want to do is instead of adding them individually one by one, you may have them in a spreadsheet and actually want to import them that way. So how do you do that? Well, basically you use add contacts and you click on import contacts. Okay. What you do is you then basically either upload a CSV or a text limited file, or literally just copy and paste from a spreadsheet. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a spreadsheet in the background and I'm going to copy and paste the information into here. So I've just copied from my spreadsheet and I've just pasted in. If you want to see what my spreadsheet looks like, that's what the spreadsheet looks like. Okay, so I've just copied that in. I'm going to click continue to organize. Obviously, I want to tick the subscribed button and I also want to make sure that they're all updated. I want to add a tag. So remember I added in direct addition. Well, this is going to be a direct import, all right, because I'm importing the information. Okay. Then I can click to continue to match. Now this is where you can decide where the column in the spreadsheet goes in Mailchimp. So I had a column called first name and Mailchimp's recognized it's called first name and is adding it to the first name field in Mailchimp. Last name does exactly the same. Now you'll see company is orange, and the reason being is that I didn't create a field in Mailchimp that actually corresponded to company. So it's now saying, well, I've got nowhere to put this data. So all I'm going to do is going to click on the arrow or the little writing button and I'm going to go create a new field. So I can create a new field on the fly. I'm going to call it company. It's a text field and now that information will get put into that field. And then obviously finally we've got email address. Click finalize import, gives me one last check and I can then click complete import. Go and have a look at the view contacts and all of the people that I've just added from that spreadsheet are now within the system. All right, and they're all being added to the system, as you can see here, all the details there, and you'll see that they've all been given the direct import tag, so that I know that that's how they were actually added to the system. All right, so now that we've got the data in, we can start using Mailchimp to send emails. How do we do that? Well, we go to create, we go to email. We're going to do a regular campaign. So this is just an on-demand campaign that you want to send. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it regular, today's date 070121 introduction scheme. All right. Now, the reason I've done this is because you're going to send lots of mails in Mailchimp. I always like to have a structure to how I describe them in Mailchimp. So it means that I can find it. So this is, if this was an automated campaign, it would have auto from that point. I'd have the date that it was set up, as it were, so I can always keep track of the dates, and then a description of what actually is in the email. And once I've done that, I click begin, and it basically then takes me through to the email creation page. All right. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through design and stuff, but I want you to focus on the key things here. All right. First of all, who's it going to? Now, you can send it to everybody, or if you click edit recipients and then go over here onto the right-hand side and click this drop-down menu, you can send it to specific tags, or you can send it to a new segment. And basically what that means is you can pretty much choose people who meet certain criteria. Now in this instance, I'm just going to add it to the people who I've imported. So I click that, click save, and now you'll see that it's going to 10 people. And if I click on that, because it shows it's as a hyperlink, it'll open up and it will show all the people who are actually getting that email. Once I've done that, I need to check who it's from. Now, usually this will be defaulted in, all right? But what I would suggest is that if you are doing this, do it so that it comes from a person at a business. And the reason being is that this is the first email ever sent from you, and you just send it from your full name, so Robin or Robin Adams in my case. People may not know who that is because they haven't got a relationship with your business at the moment. So you want to make sure that you've got your business name in the email's kind of like from name. But you also want to make it personal because people react to people. People work with people. So you don't want to be sitting there and sending an email out to people who, and they don't know that it's coming from a specific person. So I always want to make sure that it's coming from a person at a business. The email address is the email address that you've obviously got stored in the system. So I'm just going to click save there. Then you can set your subject line and your preview text. Subject line is really important because if you put a good subject line in, people are going to open the email. If you put a bad subject line in, they're not going to open the email. And let's face it, you want them to open the email. So you want to make sure you've got a good subject line. Now, certainly if you're creating templates and using the templates that Boostly has actually provided, then a lot of those have got subject lines set up and they're great subject lines. So make sure that if you're using those templates, use those subject lines. If not, try and make sure that the subject line is something that's people are going to want to learn more. Because the objective of the subject line is to get them to open the email. So you want to have some curiosity. You want to kind of like tease them about what's in the email and they'll want to actually open the email. Now the preview text is the text that appears underneath the subject line. So if you're looking at your mobile phone and looking at emails on the mobile phone, there's 2 lines of text underneath the subject line. That's what the preview text is. And again, you want something that is going to entice people, can interest people into what's actually going on in the email. All right, so we can actually have a look at subject lines. So close, you won't believe what we've got to tell you. And in preview text, our latest special offer is something you won't want to miss. So I've just put those in. Not suggesting you use those. Obviously, it's down to the email that you want to send, but you've got that. All right. And then finally, you've got content. Now, Mailchimp has recently brought out the new builder, which, as you can see, is in beta. Now, it may be at some point in the future they start doing that all the time, but at the moment, I'm not comfortable and confident with it. And also, because it's in beta, there's always 1 or 2 things that you're not sure are going to work. So I'm just going to use the classic builder. I'm going to click select. I'm going to wait for Mailchimp to kick in. I can then use a template. Now, if you've created a template before, brilliant. If you haven't, then here's a quick way to actually get things rolling. All right, click on this featured top left template. All the others, a lot of the others are actually got to upgrade to pay level to use. But just click on this one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use this to create a simple template for your business. All right, now don't use the classic builder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this template and I'm going to basically take it down to its brass tacks. So if you're watching this, if you're kind of like watching this and you haven't got your own template, all I'm going to do is delete all of the various text blocks and image blocks that are in this. I'm going to just add in my own. So I'm going to click on the rubbish bin, click on the rubbish bin, click on the rubbish bin, and again, I'm just going to delete everything that's part of this particular email. However, I'm not going to play around with the footer. The footer is something that you're best kind of like, apart from playing around design, and obviously for these social media icons, making sure that the social media links are the ones that you're going to actually have. So make sure this actually is, your business account on Facebook. So make sure you've got those set up. But apart from playing around the design, so for example, if you want to change the color, so I'm going to change the color to a particular color code, which is my blue there. All right, so I've got that. I'm not going to play around with anything else here. This is all automatically populated from the information that you supplied Mailchimp, so you don't need to worry about it. Okay, but up here, all I want to have a simple logo at the top and text. Now, I know one of the things that Mark does is he talks about having no images in your email at all. Now, bottom line is that this is down to personal preference, but for me, having a little logo at the top is something that I think actually helps people recognise that it's coming from an official business, as opposed to, you know, kind of like something they're not going to pay attention to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here on the right hand side, take an image block and drag that over here to the header. All right, and what I'm going to do as well is I'm now going to upload an image. Let's go and see if I can find an image. So I'm going to click on upload and find an image in my database. This is an image that I use for most of my test systems. It's actually my wife's business. So if I go to, where am I? Chimpanzees, courses, foundations, resources, copy. Let's see if I've got the right one. No, not that one. That's the one. So I'm now basically going to import this image into Mailchimp. They're pretty big as it were, so I just want to reduce the size. So when someone receives this email, all they'll have at the top is a little logo to do that. Okay. Then put a text blocks into the body. And then you add your text and your signature. So, hi there, thanks for being interested. All the best, Robin. Now you can get creative here. You can add images. You can add a little image of your headshot next to it. I certainly recommend in your business, because you're potentially going to be the ones who are going to be visiting, meeting and greeting the people who come in. Actually having a little headshot of the staff or the team or certainly you is probably something that you can add in here. And the way you can add that in is you can basically put the cursor where you want the image to be and click on this one, which is the image button, and it'll insert it. So that gives you a bit of flexibility. If you want to play around with the overall fonts that are being used, if you click on style, you can basically create the font. So if you go down here, scroll down in body, you can choose the font that you're going to use. You can choose the link color if you've got people to click on links or whatever. So basically what I would suggest is that it kind of like, it's not right. I could spend a long time showing you how to use this design function, but I'll be honest, you don't need to spend too much time on it. You need to concentrate certainly on the text that you're going to use, and you need to just have a basic template that you can use again and again and again, which has got your color scheme, your fonts. So I would very much recommend is that if you're in this page for the first time, have a play, create a nice template that's going to work for your business, and then literally go up to this template button here at the top. Just close this down. Template. You can save this design as your core template. So I'm going to call this core 2021. And now when I want to use this template again, it's automatically stored and I can upload it to use in a particular campaign. All right. But once you've got your template, you can then add the specific text that you want in the email. Click continue. It will take you back to the main email page. Wait for it to load in. There we go. There's your email already. And now if you want to send it, all you need to do, once you've checked it, and what I would suggest is that you click on preview, have a look at it, you're ready to send. Okay. Now there are lots of things that I haven't talked about. One of the things that I've not talked about, which I'm just going to bounce in and show, is the ability to use merge tags in your emails. All right. So what's a merge tag? Well, a merge tag is a way of personalizing your emails to the people who are on your list. And it allows you to make sure that, say, for example, the email, instead of saying, hi there, as it does here, it actually goes, dear Robin or dear Phil. And it basically will substitute their first name in to basically replace the hi there. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to actually do that. And there's two ways I'm going to do that. First of all, I'm going to basically go over here to merge tags. And I'm going to use first name. And as you can see now, it's automatically substituted in the merge tag code for first name. And what I can actually do is I can check to see if that works by going save, going over to the preview and going on to preview mode, and then clicking enable live merge tag info. If If I click that, you'll see the first name hopefully changes to Robin. And now I can click on the arrow to see the next version of the email, which is going to Peter. And then the next version of the email, which is going to David. So I then know that that merge tag information is working, so I can close it, and I'll know that that works when I send this email. Okay, so I'm just going to click continue. And that email is now ready to send. All I need to do is, once it's loaded in, is to check I'm happy with it, have a quick look at the preview to make sure that it looks the way that I want it to, and then I can go to send. Mailchimp asks, do I really want to send it? And I'm going to click send now, and that email will be sent. Okay, so that what you've done there is actually fairly standard, as it were, in terms of creating an email. So we sent it to just the people we wanted to send it to, the direct imports. We made sure that we've got a basic format and styling. And again, what I would suggest is you play around with that, because remember, this is kind of like a test environment. You want to test it first before you've got it standard. But once you've got it standard, don't play around with it. Concentrate on the content. The actual format and the way the email looks shouldn't change that much. Then obviously you can send it. Now, obviously, one of the things that we're going to do moving forward is we're going to have a look at things like data capture. We're going to have a look at things like forms and landing pages. So we're going to talk about those from a top line point of view. But if all you've got is you want to just add people manually to Mailchimp and get them to receive your emails, this is the way to do it. Use this process, go through those steps, and hopefully you'll now have a pretty good understanding of how Mailchimp actually fits together. Hope you found that useful. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.